Nick Cassidy said, Pomp, should I continue to DCA into Bitcoin and stocks or build a cash position? This is a very interesting question. The first answer is I don't give financial advice. Every single person, your individual situation is going to dictate what you should do. So things to consider. One, how much cash do you currently have? Two, what's your current portfolio look like? Three is what are you optimizing for? And what are you optimizing for is going to really depend on how old you are, what your current employment situation is, what are your expenses, all that type of stuff. And then the last thing I think is like, what do you want or what makes you happy in life? So if you take those four things into consideration, what my guess is in an overarching way, what many people are going to end up with is you're going to need some sort of cash position that can last in case something bad happens. It's all fun and games and people are like, oh, damn, it's real bad when people are getting fired until you get fired. And then you're like, shit, I don't have any income. What am I going to do? So my guess is that people are going to try to get at first to 1 month of kind of monthly expenses sitting in the bank. Then they're going to try to get to 3 months, maybe even 6 months. It's a big number, but there's a lot of people who try to get to that. So cash position, think of that as your rainy day fund. God forbid something goes wrong. You know that I'm good for 3 to 6 months. Then what people are going to start to say is, okay, that's my defensive position. I got cash sitting on the sidelines that I know that I'm good regardless of what happens at work, etc. My offensive mentality or my offensive playbook, I got to start thinking about how am I going to deploy my excess cash. So I'll use easy numbers. Let's just say that I needed $100 for my rainy day fund. Takes me a month or two. Okay, I save up. Bam, I got it. I already had some cash plus extra. I'm good now. Let's just say that gives me 3 months of my rainy day fund. I put it there. I don't touch it. I don't care how high inflation is. I don't care because I know that that's going to make sure I'm good. On offense, what a lot of people will do is they'll sit there and be like, oh, stuff's going lower. It's going lower. It's going lower. I'm going to wait to buy it lower. I'm going to wait to buy it lower. Maybe. Or maybe this is the bottom. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not trying to time markets. All I know is that when prices go up in any asset class, whether that would be real estate, commodities, stocks, Bitcoin, crypto, whatever, dollar cost average in, dollar cost average in, dollar cost average in. But when prices fall, I still think of it as dollar cost average in, dollar cost average in. I just may do it on an accelerated timeline. So an example of that would be, okay, if I was going to make a purchase of Bitcoin, right? I'm talking about myself personally, again, not financial advice. If I was going to make purchases of Bitcoin every other week, now maybe what I'll do is I'll do it every week, or maybe I'll do it every couple of days. And the thought process here is like, you use Bitcoin as the asset. 40,000 was at the bottom? Well, obviously not. Now we're down at 35, 36,000. Is that the bottom? I don't know. Maybe it goes to 30. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But instead, what I'm going to try to do is anywhere that is lower than where I was buying a couple of months ago, probably a pretty good decision. And so ultimately what they're going to end up doing is people are going to start to just dollar cost average into these assets. And so I think that's really the way that most people try to do this. And so Andy Juan, I think is how you say it. He said opinion on trying to catch a falling knife versus DCA on the way down, I think is another way to think about this as well, is you can go ahead and as you're dollar cost averaging, if let's say, for example, Bitcoin goes to some really, really low number, right? I don't know, $1,000. Let's use this super extreme. No way that's going to happen. But let's just say that that occurred. If you were started buying at $35,000 and you were dollar cost averaging on your way down, you basically were quote unquote catching a falling knife. But at the same time, if you're dollar cost averaging into an asset and it ends up bottoming at 35,000, then you were quote unquote buying the bottom. The problem is that nobody has a crystal ball. You can't see in the future. So I tend to think that if you have conviction in any asset, commodity, real estate, stocks, crypto, whatever, and it has volatility to it, you're best off simply just dollar cost averaging. Now, that requires that one, you got the cash position, right? So that you're able to actually weather any sort of financial hardship in your personal life. The second thing is that you have the excess cash flow on top of the rainy day fund to be able to invest. And then the third thing is you got a long time horizon. So what you can't do is if you're somebody who's got high leverage, right? Let's say that you had some Bitcoin, you levered it up, you bought more Bitcoin, you did all this stuff. Now all of a sudden it's a little scary because you may become a forced seller. So a lot of times what ends up occurring, and this is true of all asset classes, I talk to every single one of the best investors in the world for the most part. What ends up being a telltale kind of story or a common story is that investors, when they're young, And when they're first starting out, it's all about how high can it go? How rich can I get? How much money can I make in this trade, in this investment, or in this strategy? As they build wealth, it becomes less about how much can I make, and it becomes much more about how can I be sure that I'm durable through good times and bad times. Now, they have the benefit of they've got a cash position to be able to think that way, or an investment portfolio to think that way. But the second thing that's really important is that they also, as they build their wealth, they get experience. And so you see right now, there's a lot of venture capitalists, there's a lot of stock market investors, et cetera, all talking on Twitter about, hey, the 2008 financial crisis or the 2001 tech bust, et cetera. Sure. But there's a lot of folks who are investors right now who never lived through that stuff. They didn't have investment portfolios in 2008 or 2001, 2000, whatever. So when you start to see that, what you got to ask yourself is, what is the experience I'm going to get right now? And a lot of people are going to learn that you have to be durable. And so you can still go for the super asymmetric investment, but you got to have that durability. Without that durability, there ends up being a pretty big problem.